Hello. Today we're going to talk about grenade energy and gear stats. So something that I get asked all the time is how do I find the perfect build for my character in relation to gear stats? So mobility, resilience, recovery, discipline, intellect, and strength. It varies from one stat to the next, but for things like grenade energy under discipline or your melee under strength, well, I have a pretty specific way for those ones.
Do tell.
And whenever I've explained it to a few people, they've always come back saying they never thought of it that way. So I figured, hey, I'd love to share it with more people if I can. Today's video, I'm going to focus on grenade energy only, but you can apply this to your other gear stats, especially your melee. So let's dive right in. I intentionally set my discipline in the 30s so that I could more clearly explain how to get to the ideal number for your gameplay. All you have to do for my method to work is watch one of your VODs. You can look at many of your VODs or just one. You can decide how big of a sample size you want to use. But what you're going to do is pay attention to that little symbol in the bottom left corner, which is your grenade energy. What you're looking for is every time it turns red right about now. That's the one critical thing you got to pay attention to. I don't know if you caught that. Let me rewind this tape a little bit. Okay, now pay attention to that corner. I'm going to slow this down right as we get closer to the point where it flashes red, meaning I tried to use it. That's the whole key here. We're trying to find that moment in time where in the middle of my gameplay, I felt the need to throw a grenade. So when you're watching your VOD and you see that thing flash red, what you want to do is you want to count the amount of seconds it is until you get your grenade back. Here's an example. All right, so my counter shows 10 seconds and 6 frames, but basically just 10 seconds. That means I wanted to use my grenade and I didn't have it for another 10 full seconds. So if I reword that, it means I wished my cooldown was 10 seconds faster than what it currently was. So now let me bring up these cooldowns for you to take a look. Full credit to Reddit username itsnotunusual_RK. He posted this table about 5 months ago, right as Shadowkeep released. So keep in mind, this doesn't have the fact that your character's ability is tied to one of the stats. For example, a Titan, their shield is tied to their resilience. But we're going to look at the discipline bar here, and you can see that at my character's current discipline of 30, the cooldown is 1 minute and 22 seconds. So in this case, I wanted it 10 seconds earlier, which means I would have ideally had a cooldown of 1 minute and 12 seconds. That's not achieved by 30 discipline, so I should have been at 40 discipline with a cooldown of 1 minute and 8 seconds. That tells me that I would have had the grenade 4 seconds earlier in that scenario, and when I went to go throw it, I would have had it. All right, I'm going to show you one more example of this and then talk a little bit more about how I come to my final number. I chose to add this example because I die in the middle of it, and it's important that if you are going to end up doing this, that you pause your timer across your VOD while you're dying, because that's wasted space. Your grenade isn't charging during that time, so that has nothing to do with your cooldown. Now I will play some elegant elevator music while we wait for the timer. Uh-oh, it flashed twice. That means I literally wanted to use my grenade twice. So I can still count these as 2 separate occasions, but I should keep in mind the fact that I wanted to use my grenade twice in the matter of 1 cooldown. So in this particular case, the timer ended up at 23 seconds and 15 frames, which is basically 23 and a quarter. So back to our lovely table on Reddit, focus in on the discipline row. My current cooldown of 1 minute and 22, subtract 23 seconds. That puts me at 59 seconds. So in this case, it suggested 50 discipline. So as you can see, every time you do this, if you're only looking at one scenario, it's going to give you a specific discipline. But what you need to do is look at this across many scenarios, and it's easy to do. In one match, you might run into 10 scenarios where you tried to use a grenade and you didn't have your energy. You take all 10 of those, you just count the seconds from when it flashed red to when you got your grenade, write them all down, take the average amount and subtract it from your cooldown to get where you probably should be. Hi, Mr. Castle. My name's Earl. I'm a big fan of Destiny 2, and you know what? I used your method, and I ended up with way too much discipline, you son of a bitch. What the hell's your problem? You suck. You can use the same logic in reverse. Let me show you an example. So originally, we would count the seconds from when we tried to use it until we got it in order to subtract it from our cooldown, right? Well, this time around, we're gonna count from the moment we did get it until we actually used it, because the logic there is that if we got it too early and we didn't use it for a long time, then the stats on our gear are probably going a little too heavily towards that category, in this case, grenade energy. So you watch your VOD and we're paying attention to that corner again, and right here, I've got my nade, so we're gonna count how many seconds it is until I use it. Right there, you'll see it flash because that's the first frame of me about to throw my grenade. Trash grenade, by the way. And then that tells me that I technically got my grenade 5 seconds early. Now, just as before, you could look at an entire VOD, add all of these amounts up, get an average, and then you could cross-reference that versus your other amount to try and figure out what the perfect middle ground is. Okay, I'm a big-time visual learner, so I actually made a picture just to try and show you exactly what I mean. You guys know I love my grid paper. I've drawn sort of a makeshift, what is it called? A box and Whisker chart or something like that. Whiskers in what? Anyways, it's basically just a line, right? Everything on the left-hand side in pink is the first method that I showed you. So that's the average number of seconds where I tried to use my grenade before I actually got it, meaning I wanted my cooldown to be that much faster. In my case, it was actually 35 seconds. Those two examples that I showed you of 10 seconds and 23 seconds were the two shortest time frames I had. On the flip side, in green, is the average number of seconds where I used my grenade after getting my grenade energy. In that case, the combined average ended up only being 4 seconds. So here we are with 35 seconds on one hand and 4 seconds on the other hand. So all I do is take that 35 seconds short and then just shift it over by 4 so that my final number is this 31-second gap where I wish I had my grenade sooner. Now keep in mind, this is not to scale. So for the third time, I pull up my cooldown table. In these games, I was playing with 30 disciplines, so 1 minute and 22 seconds. Subtract the 31 seconds from it, and I end up with 51 seconds as my average cooldown target. That is just pure RNG that it landed right on the spot at 60 discipline. If you do this, you're probably going to land somewhere else, but this pushed me to start using 60 discipline instead of what I used to use, which was actually 40 in my usual gameplay. Ever since I switched to that, I have absolutely loved it. And in fact, more recently, I've gone and switched to 70 discipline, and it's even better. You got to be mindful that eventually the diminishing returns makes it no longer worth it. But for me, I found gear that was really high in discipline, so it ended up working out that I could run 6 or 7 pretty easily. All right, I hope that was helpful. Somebody tell this douchebag to shave. You can use either method if you want, or you can go the extra mile and combine them. Obviously, at the end of the day, you could also just play with one discipline, randomly pick it, start playing. If you feel like you need more discipline, add more discipline. If you feel like you have too much, take it back. That's perfectly fine too, but it's only when I got into scrims a lot where I started to recognize the need to fine-tune a lot of my stat distribution, and this method proved to be not very difficult and very effective, so that's why I wanted to share it with all of you guys. If you found it helpful or if you enjoyed the video at all, let me know in the comments or drop a like so I have some feedback on things that I could do better. And all in all, I really just wanted to say thanks. We recently hit 600 subs. I've been enjoying making these videos a lot, and I'm excited to keep it up. Peace!